Today's video is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as our friends at Docking Bay 94, located in Boca Raton, Florida. Check us out on comicsandgames.com. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename YouTube Hero 2. There goes Maya. I'm your presenter, GIJoe. And normally this time of month we do a modern GIJoe recap for a current issue. Well, since of the Diamond Distributors issue with comics and no new comics being issued for this month and probably next month, we're going to actually go into the IDW backlog and look at issue number 200. Now, on my Facebook page, this is the one issue that got the most interest. So it's a double issue. It's a pretty big issue in the sense that the significance is that it's probably, if not the last, I think it's the second to last cover done by Trimpee. So with that said, let's dive into this issue. As we do in every recap, we will highlight the cover variants. I selected cover B, as it is one of the last covers done by famed GIJoe artist Trimpee. This cover takes us back to the early issues of GIJoe. And for those that don't know, Herb is the artist for issue number 1. So having this number 2 cover is extra special. And Jamie Timsdale's Sexy Baroness is a close second. I mean, check this out. Jamie, along with Adam Hughes, John Royal, and Jim Balin, have a knack of drawing female characters. Exceptional. So usually I follow some continuity, and since I'm just picking up somewhere in the middle, I'll just recap this issue. So the little bit of the backstory is that there was another rebellion that GIJoe helped resolve in Sierra Gordo. Now, during all this, the Joes discovered a new battle android trooper, but these were built by a joint effort by Cobra and Revanche. And a lot of the people that are jumping in are probably like, who the hell is Revanche? And I have an episode about that. But basically, they're like GIJoe's version of Skynet and the Terminator. And at the same time, Cobra has entered the pit and taken over, and suddenly they're being pulled back. So we begin with having Scarlet running point, as she, along with Snake Eyes and Falcon, inspect the pit, earlier occupied by Cobra Commander and forces. Snake Eyes gives the "something is coming" signal, and it's Timber 2, who was scouting another part of the area, and they are joined shortly by Psych Out and Mainframe. Along with Flint here, this small unit was able to push Cobra out of the pit and into full retreat. Flint tosses up a flare. The booby trap that gets you is usually the one you never see coming, so it's important to get eyes on what Cobra has left behind. Now, everybody reconvenes and discuss what's the synopsis and how they have to get back to headquarters and letting them know, but before they do to give the all clear sign, they have to just triple check for any booby traps that Cobra may have left in their wake. And, we see Mainframe here talking about Trojan horses and stuff. And this is a fantastic outlook of Cobra in retreat. We have his tanks too. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And Cobra Commander is asking, where the hell is Mindbender? And of all things, Mindbender is tending to the wounded because, after all, he is a doctor. And his solution for pain is freaking Novocaine. What a nuthead. Now, Maya and I don't understand. Like, imagine you're a soldier and your medic looks like a WWF wrestler from the 80s. I mean, how terrifying is it to have Mindbender giving you, like, Novocaine Novocaine? Not even, like, morphine or whatever? See, mine doesn't even like that. Cobra Commander is growing impatient with Mindbender, but the important aspect that is to note is how little the commander cares for those injured in his cause. And just then, a incoming airplane is coming in at low altitude towards the pit, and Cobra personnel are notified, and they have to determine if this person is friend or foe. And, what their intelligence knows that this is a routine plane, but they don't realize that Wild Bill is in the back and these guys are helping Wild Bill out to get past Cobra's blockade, which they've successfully done so. And when they land, they're greeted by Duke and the rest of the Joes who have come in from another secret way at the gate of the pit. Suddenly, a secret door opens to reveal Joe Colton and G.I. Jane. Colton explains that as secret as the pit is, there is another level that's even more secret that he and Jane have been assigned to. And in light of this situation, he has to reveal this so the Joe team can actually get back into the pit by this secret pathway. We see the Snake Eyes Scarlet team finishing up with unraveling the booby traps Cobra left behind. Suddenly, the solid wall starts opening, and out jumps Duke, Colton, and the rest of the Joe teams back inside the pit. With little time preparing to catch up with Cobra, we see Jane, Colton, Duke, and Stalker begin giving out instructions to the other members of the team. And we see Jane here telling, we're going to hook up the pit to the extra secure base that it was built on top of. So she's telling all the leaders to take point. We need to quickly get this turnaround time done ASAP. Now, I started getting seriously back into GIJoe around 2015. So going back into both the Marvel and IDW run has been a lot of fun. And often, it just makes me wish I resumed GIJoe comics a lot sooner. Now, back on the Cobra front, the commander is notified that the Joes are mounting a counterattack. So his dilemma is taking one of two different paths. Now, with Wounded, he will have to take a slower path through bumpy terrain or break off another unit, and hopefully that smaller, more mobile unit will steer the Joes away. Of course, he volunteers to lead this small group. Donning his new battle armor, he boasts how he will lead the sacrifice for the better of his troops. Bunch of hogwash, if you ask me. The commander is up to no good. So we see him here. We see the Joes and their awesome array of vehicles, and then Cobra and Cobra Commander in his new armor donning his and leading his troops. Back at the pit, the Joe command point out Commander's obvious strategy. Colton and G.I. Jane disclose the secret weapon they oversee, but unfortunately, they are not allowed to use it per rules of engagement, and how this weapon can only be used per executive order. Duke has to step up and meet this challenge head on. And that's the only way they'll be able to crack what Cobra Commander is actually up to. Both parties meet in an elegantly drawn ground battle. The commander's Hiss 2 tank takes on heavy damage, slowing it down enough for Duke to jump on board and have a hand-to-hand combat. So we're about to see Duke versus Hooded Cobra Commander in a showdown, mano a mano. And all around them we see that the air the ground assault is commencing. So you see Cover Girl coming in, firing the Wolverine, the Havoc. Everybody's getting their time to shine, and we get to see all of these iconic vehicles in action. So that's what makes these sequence panels that more entertaining. And we see now that the All Striker is coming up on Cobra Commander's Hiss tank. Now, the next panels illustrate the battle going on around, as well as the infighting between Duke and Cobra Commander. Now, despite wearing this super suit, Duke is actually matching blows to blows with the enhanced Cobra Commander. So I don't know what's going on here. I mean, he's supposed to clearly be able to dominate Duke, and in this, we see that Duke is winning the battle. So, again, when this happens, we know that Cobra Commander has an ace up his sleeve for making things look too easy. If it's too good to be true, then it is true when it comes to Cobra Commander. What's interesting about this issue is kind of showing the difference between the two armies, so to speak. You know, we saw like a fog coming, and G.I. Joe is like immediately like, all right, stop. We don't want to hit anybody by accident. And then we have this HISS driver who just shows up and just starts shooting in the fog like frantically. The HISS driver ends up hitting Cobra Commander here, and Duke pulls out his side piece and offs the HISS driver. So again, this is a difference between the Marvel and IDW run. We see people getting killed off more frequently than we did in the Marvel run, but we see like Duke really pop a cap. But at the same time, I believe that is Clutch. So we see Clutch approaching the body of Cobra Commander, you know, doing the right thing and trying to take care of his injuries, but Duke is like, get away from him. And we see what it is. That robot is actually a booby trap. It is a Revanche robot made to look like Cobra Commander in his battle armor. And Duke kind of sniffed this out from the beginning. This is how the way the fight was going. This is too easy, and there's something up. So he was always on the cautious side in this battle, knowing full well what Cobra Commander is capable of. So, as predicted basically by everyone, the real Cobra Commander and Mindbender kind of stowed away on these circus trucks that were passing by in the area. So the diversion was on three fronts, with the Joes paying attention to the two bigger caravans. Now, during that time, you know, Cobra was, during the time of this issue, Cobra was really taking a beating, and they were really on a low. And shortly, the Cobra World Order will take place, the return of Serpentor, Dawn Moreno, and the Snake Eyes twist. And at the end, Colton and G.I. Jane disclose their operations to the entire Joe team. So we see an updated map of what secrets lie within the pit. And it's kind of cool when you see that and compare it to the one in the Marvel issues. So basically, when we're wrapping this up, you know, this was like an important issue 200, setting up what's going to happen right now. Revanche is in the mold, and, you know, what's going to happen to Snake Eyes. And we learned that in issue 215 or 213 with the death of Snake Eyes. So this kind of springboards into what is currently going on in G.I. Joe comics. So that's why I kind of wanted to feature this issue as, you know, something for fans to take a step back, a recent step back, to see what was going on not too long ago in G.I. Joe. And what these do is make you appreciate what was going on up until 2015. Joe was, you know, Larry Hama was still cranking out some good story ideas, and you could see that he was working in, you know, just little tidbits to where we are with the story today. And this being the last of Herb Trimpee's covers, I kind of thought that, you know, this is significant to us fans. So anyway, that's Shabu Are You. Thank you for joining me on this recap of an older issue. Oh yeah, I want to point out the back. What makes this issue 200 special, it talks about S.L. Gallant's writing or drawing process working with Larry Hama. So it's kind of cool to see the art process going on here. And of course, like my friendship with Nito Diaz and John Royal kind of solidifies what S.L. Gallant is talking about in this passage at the end of the issue. Well, now we're ready to wrap up. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the future episode of Codename New to Hero 2. Signing off.